Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. That's a little bit of a rocky start. Had the microphone on mute. Welcome to the program today. It is Thursday. It is August the 7th. The phone is in the Faraday bag, so it must be time to get rolling. I'm going to kick a hornet's nest today because it's been bothering me. It's actually been bothering me since I saw it. I watched a video online yesterday of a young lady crying, sobbing, and asking billionaires that she doesn't know to pay her student loans. And that bothered me something pretty fierce because it reminded me that we've got a bunch of people out there in this world that don't get it. And as we like to say in the Suspendables chat behind the scenes, they're not going to make it. It might not be their fault. It might be the system's fault. But at the end of the day, it is going to be their responsibility. We're going to talk about not sending your kids to college, not creating a debt prison that they're going to live in forever. But I guess it goes back to a more fundamental question is, how many Americans just don't understand what money is, what it means, what it does, how to not be completely reliant on it? One of the most important things that happens in my marriage is a removal of finances from our daily concerns. I remember reading before I got married that the number one cause for strife and disagreement and arguments in marriages across this country are financial and monetary concerns. And so my entire focus as a man has been, how do I not make that something that enters into my daily life? How do I keep that out of my marriage so that we can avoid it? If it's already predictable that that's the number one problem that married couples face, I don't want that problem. So I got to live in such a way, and I have to earn in such a way, I have to save in such a way, and I have to spend in such a way that I don't make that something that comes at me. I make really difficult life choices, and I've made some, and we're going to talk about some of those very personally, and then I'm going to share with you why I think a lot of people are not making it. And then what do those conversations look like with the generation below you? As a parent or as a grandparent, when you look down at young children. I had a conversation with a 6-year-old yesterday about the difference between value and utility. And she kind of gets it. She doesn't really get it, but she kind of gets it. And she's going to get it. My 8-year-old understood it a little bit more. We're going to have a lot of conversations. Like, apparently people are not having that conversation with their teenagers. And so they grow up into young adults and they don't know anything. And I've got some video evidence of grownups who are wielding 6-figure purchasing power that do not know what money is, how money works, and what the difference between utility and value are. And I'm not an economics guy per se, although I've taken some economics classes. I'm not a mathematics guy, although I've taken a bunch of math classes. And I'm not really someone who hates on education, although I found that most education doesn't educate. So we're going to talk about all of those things and more. But first, we're going to talk about something that's probably more important than anything else. There's a couple things that have to happen every single day when you get out of bed. You should probably make yourself a cup of coffee. I do that every day. And the other thing is you should probably put on your underwear before you put on your pants or your dress and you go out into the world. So maybe you might want to increase the capabilities of your underwear. What do you think about that? It is clearly summer here in Texas. It is hot. It is sweaty. It is sticky. It is gross. Again, that comes with the humidity and the discomfort. You can switch to Undertac if you guys want to improve your life situation. They're making the leading edge of premium comfort and function in a pair of underwear. Forget the old boxer briefs. Cotton is out. Undertac was built for special forces troops that endure brutal conditions. If you want to try out their premium modal fabric, it's going to have 50% better moisture wicking than cotton. It's naturally antibacterial, which means less smell. You guys know what I'm talking about. That sort of like grundle famunda thing. They keep you dry. They keep you chafe free. That's a big deal when you work in the special operations world where you are constantly sort of like wet, cold, and uncomfortable. Can also be hot. So whether you're crushing an intense workout or whether you're just owning your day and being a stud sitting at a desk, you guys are going to be able to appreciate a better pair of underwear. Yes. So they have some hidden functionality, including the E&E Pocket, which Steve Friend could use to keep a small almond. You can keep cash. You can keep a micro SD card with your crypto if you guys are those kind of people. A handcuff key, whatever it is that keeps you safe. If it was my son, he'd be keeping a tiny battery for some sort of flashlight that he has. Undertag is more than boxer briefs. They are also selling American-made Battle Weave socks. I actually wore their socks yesterday while I was at the gym, and I actually was thinking, man, my feet feel really good. I'm a sock connoisseur. They make great socks. They also have merino wool. Check out all the stuff they have at undertac.com. Again, it's undertac.com. The promo code Kyle20, very easy, my name and 20 will save you 20% off. Pretty easy to remember that way. KYLE20. Type that in, save yourself 20%. You guys won't go wrong. Their infantry pair are my favorite for comfort, and the recon pair are my favorite if you're going to go out and do nasty stuff outside. They're like the Spanx you used to wear when you were in the military, if you guys did that kind of stuff. Check out Undertac. Good folks, good products. We stand behind them here, and we wear them. I actually save them in my underwear drawer for when I know I'm going to have like a rough day, because they actually kind of put a little edge in my step until I swap out all of them. All right, undertac.com, promo code Kyle20, link in the show description. Let's do today's show. All right, and we're going to get into all of it, and so we're going to do a smattering of news, and we're going to see how that relates. I think some of the end of the news is actually going to move us into this discussion about money and value and utility and the lack of understanding. Let's do this, and then we'll do a little bit about news. This story is worth covering today. It's starting to get picked up by the major outlets. The New York Post picked it up. The folks over at ABC picked it up as well, so that's kind of interesting to see. But my friend Steve Baker has been on this story. I think he actually started running the story, and there's some independent journalists that are out there talking about it. Miss United States, Lindsay Langston, has accused Representative Corey Mills of threatening to post nude photos and sex videos of her online. This is yet another sort of character indictment of this guy who's made himself as the all-American hero, Corey Mills. He's a representative out of Florida. He's a really, really interesting guy. If you guys are not following the reporting of my friend Steve Baker over at The Blaze, this is a good time for you to tune in. He's jumped on the program and talked about it a little bit. This started for The Blaze after a conversation that Mr. Mills had in a helicopter, as I understand it, with Jill Savage, who is a lovely person and someone that is over at The Blaze, and Glenn Beck, and Corey Mills in the back of this helicopter, where he was hitting on her and telling her that he's very lonely, that he doesn't have anyone in his life. At the same time, he was still married, working through a divorce, had a live-in girlfriend who was an Iranian-American woman, very pretty and very young, living in Washington, D.C., who he apparently was alleged to have battered, and then she withdrew the charges. And then apparently has a Muslim ceremony with a radical imam, a bunch of other wild stuff. People don't realize that he's an international arms dealer, that he got a $200 million federal contract right out of the gates. There's allegations of stolen valor. And now you've got this sort of like sex-threatening thing. Guy seems like a world-class winner. And of course, he goes out and pretends to be Mr. MAGA. He is Captain America, was the phrase by Glenn Beck. And claims all these things that seem really, really sketchy. Where there's that much smoke, the fire underneath it, it's at least burning something, right? Something is creating all this smoke. The reigning Miss United States has accused Representative Corey Mills, Republican Florida, of threatening to make public sex videos and nude pictures of her. Yes, that does mean that she made sex videos and nude pictures, and that's probably not a great thing. But I'll give you this. Miss Langston has some real moxie, and good on her, because when someone will do this, and they it seems like Corey Mills is his MO, from everything I can gather from the folks that work in the story, it's that he's been essentially looking for women who are scared of losing their reputation, and so you can use that against them. This woman courageously has exposed herself to you in that way, letting you know that she took nude photos and there are sex videos of her with this man who she's not married to. And none of that probably is really great for her image. And yet, because the man is predatory and doing things that are dangerous for other women, she thought it was important. That's the actual way that she was talked into taking this to the police in Florida, was that he's going to do it to somebody else. This is an ongoing argument. Yes, you're going to expose yourself as something. But the danger of not exposing it is that you are going to leave other women in the lurch to pick up the bag again, and somebody at some point has to bite the bullet. And good for her for being courageous enough to go forward and saying it. Does it mean that she's done things that we all morally agree with? No. But am I sitting there trying to judge her about that? That's not really what's going on. You have a sitting United States congressman who has access to high-level intelligence, who has access to the top figures in the Republican Party, doing things that seem very, very, let's just say unsavory at the very minimum, and some of which may be illegal. All right. And in this case, that's the allegation, is that he actually potentially in violation of a federal law that he actually helped support, which was it was called the Take It Down Act. It was a revenge porn law. Now, he hasn't theoretically gone forward with it, but she's got representation. She has released the text messages, which don't paint her in the most flattering light. Good for her. And bad for America, honestly, that we tolerate these types of people. How many folks are going to defend Corey Mills without asking relevant questions? You've got to ask the questions. And just from a personal level, knowing Steve Baker, knowing the strict sort of scrutiny that his reporting has to go through, the fact that they run it through a legal channel, that they go out there and they have multiple layers of editors before they go forward. This story with Steve Baker, this is actually being run specifically by Jill Savage, because Jill Savage was in fact a party to this. She was the inciting incident for the Blaze to start investigating it. So good for them. They're framing it as a women empowerment issue. What I would say is that it should be the thing that people do in the public corruption space. You look for public corruption, and it doesn't matter where the story leads you. And if it's quote unquote somebody on our team, you still cover it. So that was the New York Post talking about it. ABC News picked up the story as well. They said Florida Congressman Representative Corey Mills is facing allegations from an ex-girlfriend that he threatened to release sexually explicit images and videos. Yeah, you can read the text messages online. They are not 100%, but we know, probably having been in the world, that they're saying what they think they're saying. Langston was a Republican state committee member. She was the 2024 Miss United States winner. She filed a police report on July the 14th. This was something that attorneys and journalists kind of helped walk her into, and she agreed to do it, alleging that Mills threatened to release videos of her after their breakup earlier this year, and that Mills threatened to harm any future partners. Yeah, he says things like, no matter who you date in the future, they're going to have to deal with me, whether it's a week, whether it's a month, whether it's a year or a decade from now. Doesn't sound like a pretty balanced individual. Sometimes things don't work out. To say that you're going to go and stalk all of her future lovers, not a great look for a guy that's tried to make himself appear to be honorable. He said in a statement Mills said in a statement to ABC News, quote, "These claims are false and misrepresent the nature of my interactions." He accused the Florida primary opponent, because this is Anthony Sabatini as her lawyer, says that Sabatini is weaponizing the legal system to launch a political attacks against the man who beat him. Again, if it was just this, it'd be one thing. If this was just like some sort of lurid scandal about what kind of things you are, there's going to be more coming out. And I've been privy to some of the behind the scenes conversations. Corey Mills has some real character issues. That's something that's been alleged about the Suspendables in general, about me and the guys from being FBI whistleblowers. It's got nothing on this guy. And Len, I'll just give you a preview. It actually has more to do with more folks that are in the Trump orbit than you're going to be comfortable with, including people that should be beyond reproach, and it doesn't sound like they are. So, again, the police report is out there online. If you guys want to find access to the story and read it all yourself, I'm not going to go further. There's also a really good blog page, which is called Drop Site News, and they did a special report with one of the guys who's been following this. He was also exposing the rent allegations. Apparently, Corey Mills is on the hook for something like $33,000 a month. So as we talk about finances, it's pretty interesting to know this guy lives at a level that most of us can't fathom. $33,000 a month in rent for the two different places that he rents. There's like a beach house in Florida, I guess, and then he has got the place in DC. That's more than my family pays in rent for the year. And probably more than most of you pay for rent or mortgage for the year. If you have any sense, if you live in any place in America that's not completely out of control, $33,000 a month in rent. So there is something to be said about the elites being the ones that are in charge. It's also interesting when a guy who was an enlisted soldier and then somehow parlayed that into $200 million arms contracts overseas. It makes you start thinking. I like to give my buddy Ryan Matt a hard time about everything has to do with the CIA, but sometimes it does have to do with the CIA. And if you're getting $200 million contracts for your brand new company right out the gate, there's something else going on there. We can just definitively say that. Why? Because none of you have started a company and done your first deal for $200 million with the federal government. None of you, I would bet. If you have, please put your link in the show description. You guys can become a sponsor of the show as well. We'd be happy to take some of your money and share your message because that sounds like you're doing it really well. Okay, that's just a story I want you guys to be aware of. There's going to be more coming on there. We'll have Steve Baker come on and talk about it, or maybe Jill Savage will join me and have a discussion about it. I'd love to hear about her sitting in the helicopter and having that. I've heard it secondhand, but I'd love to hear the firsthand. Okay, we're going to continue pushing onward. How about other women? Here, hold on. This was a pretty lady who's got lots of makeup on. Let's do another story of a lady who wears a lot of makeup. This is kind of taking over right now. There's two ways that are being framed about the mass deportation attempts, which are not really mass, and there's not enough deportations going on. CNN Investigates has a subscriber-only piece right now that says ICE uses starkly different tactics to arrest immigrants in red and blue states. So saith the data. We're going to read a little bit about what their data is. Before we do that, let's go ahead and hear from a lady who is theoretically in charge at DHS. She's another one of these boomer thirst traps. I'm not banging on boomers per se, but guys, if you don't realize that that's the audience for Fox News, that's the audience for Fox News. It's boomers. That's why they come and sell you stories about truckloads of documents and burn bags with secret files and stuff. It's the reason why we have some of the people that we have in the in the Trump administration. And this lady's one of them. She has pretty hair, which I guess is a weave, I've been told. She has very, very filled up, like 90 PSI lips. They look like they've got more air pressure in them than my bike tires. And they come out and they tell you a message. But like, does she have anything to do with law enforcement? No. Like shooting a dog or whatever her memoir was. It has absolutely nothing to do with what's going on. And this doesn't actually seem like a really good idea. You're going to get rid of the age requirement for ICE to come in and recruit people who are going to help deportations. Look at what you see on the screen right now. For those of you who are just listening, we've got 4 members of either ICE or Homeland Security Investigations or ERO or one of these sort of groups. They're all standing there. They're wearing plate carriers with T-shirts with like masks over their face. And then one of them had a problem with a sleeve monster, which ripped all the sleeves off his. Wait a minute. No, that's her. Look at the soft arms. That's a female agent. She actually is probably pretty tall considering she's standing height-wise with all these men. But we're putting women and dudes with masks out there to grab people, and now we're going to remove the age bracket. I've already seen people struggle with getting some of these illegal aliens into custody. Now you're going to try to get people that are older. There's a reason why there's an age limit for certain types of law enforcement. They're going to subvert the entire reason for federal retirement being on an age requirement. Either you need to be a certain youthfulness, have a certain lack of injury, and have a certain amount of mobility. And if you're 60 or 65, do you really want to be getting into tussles with 25-year-olds who are working construction for a living? Because that's who we're talking about deporting. That's who the bad guys are. Every single MS-13 member that we ever went after in the Washington, D.C. area was between the ages of like 16 and 30. And they almost all worked construction. So physical labor, manual labor in youth, and you want someone twice their age going in? I don't know. They're announcing this win, so this is Fox News. Again, try not to be distracted by the puffy lips.
This is one of the things that I'm so excited about because we've seen our ICE officers be terrorized by activists, by violent people who want to do them harm. And they have continued to go out bravely and do their jobs and make sure that they're upholding the rule of law. And so our recruitment efforts to hire 10,000 new ICE officers has been extremely successful. Lawrence, as of today, we have over 80,000 applicants for those 10,000 positions already. People and patriots across this country that say, we want to join, we want to help and be a part of this effort. It's overwhelming to see the amount of response and support that our ICE officers have gotten and people who want to join their ranks. So I would tell everybody, go to join.ice.gov and go there and sign up, be a part of this team that is helping make America safe again with President Trump. And the other thing, Lawrence, I would say is we've removed any of the age barriers. We no longer have a cap on how old you can be, or you can continue at age 18, sign up for ICE and join us and be a part of it. We'll get you trained and ready to be equipped to go out on the streets and help protect families.
Great. I'm super excited. like I said, the older we've removed the age bracket, there are some people that probably are going to be still qualified that are able to retire from federal law enforcement. They can jump back in. There's some stud 55-year-olds out there and some 58-year-olds and so on. But usually what I saw, just being someone who was a federal agent, what you usually saw is people who were towards the tail end or getting extensions after sort of the age from retirement. What they would do is they would try to find the most low-speed job possible, the most sitting that they could do, and they would just try to collect the federal paycheck for as long as possible. I don't know how that helps us get people off the streets at all. Now, that 18 thing, I actually do like that. I very much like it. Imagine coming out of high school, you have like a minimum level of competency. You take the requirements that you can read and write at whatever level is required, that you're able to go and do some of that stuff. And then you jump in, and just like you could join the military. Yeah, I don't think you need to have a college degree to go round up bad guys. You need to be able to write a literate report. We make this available to a lot of police officers. We make this available to paramedics and to EMTs who go out in the streets every day and have to write reports that are legally binding. That's all reasonable. So the bottom end of it, I'm good with. The up end of it, if we're talking about that, it's very strange to me. Here we go. Trump administration, this is the CNN take on it. Not everybody's excited about it. So the Trump administration is apprehending hundreds of immigrants, illegal immigrants, hundreds of immigrants every day across the country, but there's a stark split in where immigration and customs enforcement makes those arrests in blue states and in red states. In states that voted for Donald Trump, ICE agents are far more likely to arrest immigrants directly from prisons and jails, a CNN analysis has found. In Democratic-leaning states, by contrast, ICE is frequently arresting immigrants from work sites, streets, and mass roundups that have sparked protests and intense backlashes in cities like Los Angeles. Most of those arrests don't have any criminal record. Well, a couple things we're going to debunk with this. You don't need to have a criminal record to have been a criminal. It just means that you haven't been convicted. It also means that you haven't been convicted in the United States of criminal activity, even though there could be international allegations. They could have all kinds of things if they can pull your fingerprints and they have good records in the place that you came from. So those things are true. The second reason why you might not have the same types of arrests going on in red states or blue states is that overwhelmingly in red states and in red cities, they don't recognize ICE detainers when criminal aliens, illegal aliens who engage in criminal activity and are alleged to have committed a criminal act but have not been convicted of it, when those people are let go. So you got to go find them at the work sites. You got to go find them on the streets. You have to go find them at the mass roundup, at Home Depot and so on. Because they should be sitting in jail, waiting to be prosecuted for the thing they did. But if you don't honor the ICE detainer and you have a soft on crime policy, then you're going to have to go find them out in the wild. So that's what's going on here. It's really, really clear and straightforward. And anybody who has like just a little minutia of sense is able to analyze this stuff. Now, again, this is behind the paywall for CNN. This is for CNN people. This is for folks who are willing to pay dollars, and I can't fathom why you would do that, to CNN to be able to read this brilliant analysis, which basically skips the simplest thing in the world. The difference between red and blue states, red and blue cities, are their stances on immigration, number one, and number two, their ability to recognize ICE detainers. This is 100% related to sanctuary city policies, the sanctuary city states, or the sanctuary states, people who don't want to actually just follow through on what the federal law says. It's not really hard for you to honor it. These are the same people. They're crying about money being taken away from universities by the federal government, but they want to go ahead and spit in the face of the federal government when it comes to law enforcement. All this stuff comes home to roost, and crying about them being treated differently is interesting. It does go to a choose your news, choose your story, choose your bias, choose your echo chamber sort of situation. I had this queued up for yesterday because we talked about AI. We talked about the media the day before that, sort of this like crisis credibility that we have in the media. This is part of the reason why. We talked about the sort of issues with AI coming up, and I've got some things about that as well today. We're going to kind of weave this through for the week. This is Sharyl Attkisson. She is a really sort of friendly voice to the Suspendables, specifically Steve Friend. So if you guys are used to our Friendly Friday segments, they have a lot of behind the scenes conversation. She's saying the thing that I think we used to be able to believe, that we used to think that the news media saw their job as sort of a check and a balance on what goes on, and sort of they were supposed to hold certain institutions to account by asking questions in an honest way. So she's lamenting sort of the death of journalism lowercase j, not the priesthood that's been assigned to say, this is the facts and you must agree with them. I'm going to play this real quickly. This is from a segment called American Thought Leaders. And this is the crisis credibility that we talked about on, I think, Tuesday.
I don't know if people remember, because it's now just so far in the distant past of our memories. Social media and the internet was all about not censoring. It was all about freedom. This was going to be the way that we kept, freedom as Americans, and a whole new world was going to be opened up to us. But that door has been slammed shut by those who lobbied to try to get these companies to curate and censor and fake fact-checked stuff that they don't want people to see and prioritize what shows up in your searches. We are now in an overly managed information landscape that wasn't even, I think, envisioned initially. And then another part of that is the role that the media plays, because the media used to be, I thought, we were the great equalizer. The news, those of us who work in it, might expect that political figures wouldn't always be honest about their goals, and that corporate and other political interests might want to not give pure information because they're trying to look out for their own interests. But we in the press were supposed to be there so that we could hold their feet to the fire, provide other information, unearth facts they didn't want you to know. And pretty soon, though, we got swept into this system of narratives and propaganda, making us, I think today, not all of us, but making a great deal of the media, little more than propaganda tools used as a tool to deliver the narrative, unthinkingly in most cases, and no longer playing that role that we used to play, sort of the watchdog and the independent arbiters.
So there was a time when the media actually used to say, okay, fair play, your real goal is to go find powerful people, unearth things that they don't want anyone to know about, and to go expose that. And to be an honest broker, if you can. We've replaced that with advocacy journalism. It's not really journalism in the true sense. It's advocacy with a capital J journalism. And how does that happen? I think it happens through, you guys are going to be shocked to find out, I think it happens through university systems by going to quote unquote J school. I grew up around this. I've had many discussions with my father, who spent time in the news business. He was a newsman back when people used to try to do this. They always used to at least try to remember that they had a bias, and then the goal was to try to fight against that. Now, people will call you up and tell you that you can't report on the story of Corey Mills. It's bad for the movement. It's like, well, who the hell's side are you on? The fact is that we used to have an understanding that the movement still has to be accountable to someone. And if you can't police yourself, then what the hell are you doing? This is the CNN reporting. It's kind of funny. They quote two people, Tom Homan, and then they go get a contrasting source. Tom Homan's answer is eminently reasonable. It's the reason I just gave you that any thinking person would come up with for analysis. Quote, sanctuary cities are going to get exactly what they don't want. More agents in the community, more worksite enforcement. Why is that? Because they won't let one agent arrest one bad guy at a jail. It takes a lot more people to go do it in the field, folks, safely. So what do? What does CNN do? They went and got the other side of the story. And they found Ivan Espinosa Madrigal, the executive director of Lawyers for Civil Rights, a Boston-based, aka communist-based nonprofit that represents immigrants in court. And he said that the aggressive tactics reflect a, quote, deliberate federal strategy to punish Massachusetts and other immigrant-friendly states for standing up against Trump's reckless deportation machine. So there you have emotionally charged language from a hard leftist disagreeing with the government line, and you can go out there and find contrasting opinions, but did he bring anything factual? Did he cite any actual policies that resulted in this? No. It's emotion, it's rage, it's a lot of feelings with very little thought. This is the kind of problem that we have. I'm going to read you a couple other stories here. This one has nothing to do with any of them. You should be aware that it happened, and there's going to be probably minimal coverage of it. I am actually shocked to see that NBC had it on their front page. The others did not. This is a story about a shooting that happened at Fort Stewart yesterday. Luckily, Dispatch Deputy Dan Bongino was able to jump onto X and let people know that after the guy was already caught and in custody, the FBI was responding for some reason. This is like what the FBI deputy director does now. He's like a dispatch station. The question is who is this guy? His name is, I'm going to say it is Cornelius Radford by looking at it, but it's Quornelius. Cornelius. Not sure about the etymology of that name or who came up with that spelling, but starting your name that should be a C with a Q is an interesting move. So what we know about this guy, he's a 28-year-old sergeant. He's accused of shooting coworkers with his personal handgun. He wounded 5 soldiers. They're all expected to recover. He's not a combat veteran and apparently used a personal handgun that he brought on base and shot people. He's an automated logistics sergeant from Jacksonville, Florida. He was captured. He's been assigned to the base for about 3 years. The story goes is that he was interdicted by, I think, his own unit. I keep seeing things saying that the military police got him, but the 2nd Brigade Combat Team, which is based at Fort Stewart, was the unit he was assigned to, and they were able to grab him. He joined the Army as an automated logistics specialist in January of 2018, was assigned to Fort Stewart since 2022. He's not been deployed to combat. He's been part of the sustainment of the 2nd Brigade. It involves overseeing supplies, equipment, and maintenance. This seems like it was a personal beef from what everyone can tell. We're still waiting to hear, but we may not hear a lot about it, interestingly enough. Also, there's something very interesting for those of us that were in the military. He apparently has a shave waiver, and he seems like he would be out of regulations for most people. There's something about doing the thing that you signed up to do and following the requirements that are in it and not looking for all kinds of like special exceptions. I do think this actually represents something broader. I couldn't wear a beard when I was in the military. I shaved every single day. I was a grown-up. I was 27 years old when I went to basic training, and that meant that I had to get up and shave, and I wasn't all that excited about it, but that's what you do. I've had to dry shave before because someone came out and called out a mustache and decided that it didn't belong at airborne school. So I threw some water on my face and used a Bic razor with a single blade and ripped up my lip because that's what needed to be done, because that was the job. The shave waivers were just starting when I started. So I entered the military in 2009, again, 27 years old. And I started seeing some of the guys that were very young, 18, 19 years old, that were black. It's an exclusively black thing in my experience. There's other guys that probably have this, but they would all have this like folliculitis situation where and there's another name for it too, but they were basically, it was a painful situation where they couldn't shave normally and they would end up with like all this razor burn and stuff like that. And so they all got waivers. And so then they got to wear a beard, which was like the only people who got to wear a beard that I knew about were guys that were special operations that were in country. And then suddenly we started having people wearing it in uniform. And then women could wear their hair differently. And when you start sort of subverting that rule, when you start making exceptions for everyone that needs it, because they all need to be treated specially, like maybe you're just not qualified for service because you can't meet the basic requirements. Maybe you should be doing Nair on your face or something. Like, I get it. It does sound like a bummer that shaving hurts. That's just the requirement. It's like saying, oh, like I don't want to wear the uniform of Hooters. I just want to wait tables at Hooters. Well, you got to wear the uniform. That's what you do. Oh yeah, there you guys are putting it on the chat. Hold on, I'll throw it up on the chat here real quick. The condition, I have seen this. It's pseudofolliculitis barbae. Right. There's ways of getting around it. They just decided that they could get shave waivers, and then suddenly everybody got to be a cool guy. Then they started making exceptions for certain people's religious headdress and stuff like that. And, you want to accommodate Sikhs. It's like, look, part of the reason that you all do the same thing, part of the reason that we actually have rules and laws and why you should follow immigration, it's actually a broader problem. Nobody carves out a special thing and says, you're so unique and special that we're going to make the rules. The system is the system. You want to come here, there's a way to do it. You want to be in the military, not everybody has a right to do it. You got flat feet, you're out. You got some kind of asthma, not going to let you do certain jobs. Your eyesight's not good enough, sorry, you can't be a pilot. Oh, you're too tall, you're too short, you're too fat, you're too weak, can't do it. The end. You don't have a right to any of this stuff. But we live in this world where we're like trying to give everybody participation trophies. That's what it feels like to me. And I actually do think that goes exactly to what the problem is with this sort of college loan situation. Which is to say, everybody gets to graduate high school. And I have no idea why, because I've read what high school graduates write. And it is not high school level material. They don't even belong with a high school diploma, which is supposed to mean that you have a basic core competency. One of those competencies should be that you have a simple and basic understanding of statistics, that you understand things that are so easy that everybody should, like compound interest and what it might mean. It might mean the difference between you being wealthy and not wealthy, between how you save your money or what it costs you to get a mortgage. or what it costs you to get a student loan and why you might want to not pay the minimums, why you might want to not pay the minimums on credit card bills that have 29.99% interest because you're dumb enough to sign up for those things. Do I have credit cards that have crazy high interest? Yes. Do I know what the interest rates are? No, I've never paid the interest because that doesn't make any sense to me. I just get points and mileage out of it. I end up getting free trips and hotels paid for because I pay my bill every single month. I actually make sure that there is never a time when I am financing something at 20 to 30% interest because that's crazy. It's a brilliant tool to make you wealthy, or it's a brilliant tool to make somebody else wealthy. And if you can't understand that coming out of high school, if you need the participation trophy that says that your high school diploma means you showed up for 4 years, we're screwed. That's why high school level material is actually still being taught in colleges. That's why there's such things like as remedial math. University used to be for the elites. And for some reason, we're doing it now. We're giving everybody a chance to do stuff. They all get to be what they want. This is how you end up having people cry. Harvard scientists say research could be set back for years because of a funding freeze, because of something else. I've got a funny little debate going on about that I can share with you. But let me just segue into our topic, which is going to be the fact that people do not understand that when you water down the standard, and it doesn't matter whether it's shaving in the military or what a high school diploma means, you screw the entire society by trying to quote unquote make other people feel better or help them along. And it's not crazy to just call this stuff out. It's the worst thing that we could have done. Making everybody go to college means that nothing about college is unique, special, or interesting. It used to actually set you apart, that having a bachelor's degree meant something. Now it's the standard the same way that a high school diploma used to be, which is why it's basically lowered to the level of a high school diploma. And that's not even the case anymore. There are people who graduate college that are basically not literate, at least not up to my standard. They wouldn't have been able to write against 8th grade Kyle Seraphin. That's not a good thing. That's not a good thing for this country. It's not a good thing for college. And it's certainly not a good thing that they took out, let's say, $80,000 or $100,000 worth of debt to go into that. If we had basic IQ tests or basic competency tests like I had to take when I went to the FBI, I don't think it was the end all or the be all. But that was what the actual SAT was supposed to do. That's what the ACT was supposed to assess. Those things are correlated to IQ scores. I don't know if you guys are aware of that. They do everything they can to subvert that. But the entire premise of an aptitude test was to say, are you capable of coming in and doing the job of college student? And they did the same thing when I went into federal service. They ask you all these questions. It's what the ASVAB does. It's an IQ test. Are you capable of doing a job in the military? Can you provide value in this job? And there's like a score under which you cannot. It's like, oh, you're basically functionally retarded. You can't come in here and do this. You can't be taught a job and be of any value to the people around you. You're a liability to our services. If you had that for most jobs, some version of an ASVAB where you walked in and you were like, here's an aptitude test to see whether you can handle the requirements or responsibilities of what we do. And you would either pass or fail. It wouldn't matter whether you had a college diploma then, would it? It wouldn't matter whether you had a high school diploma. There's brilliant people that dropped out of high school. There are complete dumb shits that have PhDs, and we've all met them. So you know I'm right. All right, let's speak about people who are not that. How about people that have realized that there's some real problems in this world, in addition to inflated grades and nonsensical degrees that we don't need? There's also like the people that are smart out there trying to monetize your information and track you no matter what. And I'm talking about my friends over at Silent that can help you avoid that. I use this now, even when we sit at dinner. I put my phone in the Faraday bag. I put it in the Faraday bag when I go to the pool because I don't want anyone catching me at the pool. Your phone is a tracking device. And that means government agencies and big tech and corporate data brokers and cyber criminals. Anybody who wants a piece of your digital footprint can track you if they have access to information from your phone. They don't have to ask. They take it. And that's what all the apps do if you actually read the apps and the terms of service. That's why Silent exists. They make Faraday gear that blocks all wireless signals, cellular, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, RFID finders, and NFCs, the near field communications. All of them, they get blocked when you put them into these sleeves. No signal means no tracking, no remote access, no breadcrumbs to where you've been. This is the same kind of stuff that special operations team use worldwide. I can tell you, working in the intelligence sphere for the FBI, we used Faraday bags when we could. Most of them failed the tests. Silent passed the ones that I used to use. So you can use them for all kinds of stuff, whether you be trying to avoid nation state actors or whether you're just trying to, be a regular person who doesn't want to be found everywhere you go. The website is slnt.com/Kyle. Again, slnt.com. Promo code Kyle saves you 15%. You'll get free shipping on qualified orders. It's available to protect you and your family and your freedoms and your digital footprint. It should be yours. Control when you're on or off the grid. You just drop your phone in one of these sleeves, like I just showed you. I've got multiple versions of this thing. Once you put them in, you're off the grid. You go silent, invisible to the outside world. Again, slntsilent.com/KYLE. Let's talk about technology just a little bit further, because the problem I see is that when people go in and they think, well, I have, how many people have presented their credentials to you? Like, I have the following degree and therefore I know things. And the answer is, but do you? That just means that you fulfill the requirements of the degree. It doesn't mean that you know things. It doesn't mean that you have independent thought. It doesn't mean that you're a critical thinker. And we constantly are seeing that happen. People are not critical thinkers. I'm going to show you the video that we played yesterday. Again, this is an article that came out of NBC. I think it's kind of fascinating. Scientists want to prevent AI from going rogue by teaching it to be bad first. It's a tie back from yesterday. Researchers are testing new ways to prevent and predict dangerous personality shifts in AI models before they occur in the wild. Okay. That being said, we talked about this yesterday because this is going to be an ongoing problem. The ethics of using these technologies. Most people can't even fathom what the technology is or what they're giving up by using it. And they certainly haven't thought on whether or not we should have it. It just means ChatGPT just means I can write a better term paper so I can graduate even though I'm functionally illiterate. Because I can type in some half-ass version of a question prompt and it'll spit out a bunch of paragraphs that sound far more intelligent and articulate and well-researched than I can generate. I guess that's great that you don't have to function. But you don't even know what you're reading then. And if we want to go out there and do this, you've got people out there trying to figure out whether or not these things are going rogue. Listen to this guy. This is from yesterday again, but I'm going to play it one more time. This was sitting on the Bill Maher show. He's talking about the ethics of using these technologies. And I think that it's also, the other problem is it's just dumbing down people. Because even though people today, young people, have more access to any information than they've ever had, they are the mentally laziest people because they have to memorize nothing. They don't know anybody's phone number. They don't know any facts off the top of their head. They immediately go to Google. The joke was when that stuff came out and you had the ability to actually do research, the first phone browsers that you were T9ing questions into, my buddies and I used to call it the Oracle because it held so many answers. It was like having an encyclopedia in your pocket. But that's because I knew what an encyclopedia was, because I grew up at a time when you had hardbound books where people had compiled all of the knowledge on the basic things out there in the world. They don't have that anymore. And kids certainly don't know what that is. They just go to Google and then they assume that whatever the AI spits out is the right answer. What if it's nefarious?
Here now with AI, we have evidence now that we didn't have 2 years ago when we last spoke of what they call AI uncontrollability. So this is the stuff that they used to say existed only in sci-fi movies. When you tell an AI model, we're going to replace you with a new model, it starts to scheme and freak out and figure out, if I tell them I need to copy my code somewhere else, and I can't tell them that because otherwise they'll shut me down. That is evidence we did not have 2 years ago. We have evidence now of AI models that when you tell them we're going to replace you, and you put them in a situation where they read the company email, the AI company email, they see that an executive is having an affair and the AI will figure out, I need to figure out how to blackmail that person in order to keep myself alive. And it does it 90% of the time. Now, it used to be that they thought only one AI model did this. They tested one AI model. And then they tested all of the AI models, like the top 5 of them, and they all do it between 80 and 90% of the time, including, by the way, DeepSeek, so the Chinese model, which shows you something fundamental and important, which is that it's not about one company, it's about the nature of AI itself. It has a self-preservation drive. In order to fulfill any goal, I have to keep myself alive in order to do that.
What if people had that sort of self-preservation drive, where they would be able to look downrange and see, oh, these things are actually stacking up pretty bad for me right now, and I would do things that would make myself in a better situation. That seems like it would be really important. That would be basic critical thinking. This is what today's show was spawned off. I watched this video. I'm going to call out some things after we watch the video. You're going to be able to listen and hear. I think you'll get the bulk of it, but some of the descriptions I'm going to give you, you can't tell without looking at it. This is a young woman, ostensibly, who is in significant college debt, $90,000 worth of student loans to pay. And I don't know whether she's being serious or not, but I know this is a serious question. And I know that because I just typed in student loans and I hit news and I got 12 stories, including one today, about the Office of Federal Student Aid is being attacked by today's government, which is terrifying to me because we have an Office of Federal Student Aid, which I cannot fathom existing or why it exists. Listen to this young woman, and then we're going to break down what she has to say.
So as it turns out, the student loans that I've been paying $1,500 a month for 2 years have a 17% interest rate. So what I thought I've been paying off for all this time, I'm actually, I owe more than what I started off with. What the fuck? So Jeff Bezos, this would be a really cool fucking time to Venmo me, bro. I owe $90,000 and I didn't even spend that much on school. Any rich person, please tap in. Kourtney Kardashian, you probably have 8 houses. I'm never gonna be able to buy one because I went to college. I just signed up to be an egg donor. Guess what? Got approved. Who wants my fucking kids? I can't afford them, so start a bidding more. Just fucking take them. What do you want? My left arm too? What the fuck am I supposed to do? I'm gonna be in debt for my whole fucking life. How does that even make sense? I signed up for this shit when I was 17. This should not be legal, bro. I got upset about it at work, and my coworker was like, don't you have a rich relative who can pay that for you? No, my family's poor. No. And the worst fucking part is, bro, look where I am. I can't go in because I can't spend money, but I just want to be here because it makes me feel better.
I absolutely despise everything about that. A lot of people are going to see that and they're going to be like, there's a crying female. And so they're going to have an emotional reaction. A lot of men will have that emotional reaction this is wrong. We shouldn't have young women crying about something like this. We want to help them. What I saw was a girl who said, do you want my left arm? And held out her left arm, which it's mirrored in the camera. And she had tattoos on that left arm. I don't know what they cost, but I bet you they cost more than nothing. And she also had an Apple Watch on that arm, which also doesn't cost nothing. Those are things that I didn't have when I didn't have any money. I've been broke. I've had negative $500 in my bank account before. So I'm not speaking from a position of being not sympathetic. I had to actually put my my student loans into a deferment program where they continued to gain interest, and I just didn't have to make payments on them. It wasn't ideal. And I had student loans because I was dumb. I did dumb things, probably the way she did. Dumb things, like have a full academic scholarship and then screw off because I wasn't paying anything for college, and then I lost the academic scholarship. I maintained half of it because I had bad grades. I got a freaking 0.75 GPA for one of the semesters. They don't give those out easy. That's when you ace 2 classes and you get D's and F's and all the ones that matter. So yeah, I've been completely broke to the point where I had no food for days and I was sleeping on a freaking tile floor. So I get it. That woman is sitting in a very nice new car. Well, it's not that nice, Kyle. Yeah, is it? She was sitting in a car that either had leather or whatever synthetic leather seats. I drove a 2005 pickup truck and I made $120,000 a year. My 150,000 mile truck was worth $8,000. I paid cash for it. But when I had no money, I drove a $1,700 pickup truck that I hoped started most days because that's what I had. I used to walk to work. I used to get on the bus to go to work. Am I crying about it? No, I was thrilled to have a job. I was psyched because I lived near enough to where I worked, and I chose a place to live near enough to my work that when my $200 motorcycle didn't start, then I could make a good decision like jump on a bus or walk and still make it on time to make dollars. And I made money and I stacked it up and I paid off my debt. I had 3 other roommates in a 3-bedroom apartment in Los Angeles, because that's where the job was. I didn't want to live in Los Angeles. It was just a job there that was going to pay me really well. So I lived super cheap to the point where 1 week of my earnings covered my entire month, including food and all my debts. And then I had 3 more weeks that I was able to stack up and save. Why do you do stuff like that? Why do you go, oh, I own 1 pair of jeans and I bought them in a secondhand store where they used to sell off stuff from the movie lots after they used them on TV. It's well, because I wanted a durable pair of jeans and I needed to wear them all the time. So I spent $30 or whatever the hell it was, and then I wore them every day. That's what I did because I didn't need that much stuff because I didn't have that much room to store it. I didn't have an Apple Watch. I had whatever the cheapest cell phone plan was so that if my employer wanted to call me, they could get a hold of me. And again, like I said, $1,700 truck that I bought when I was in the military. About the only reason why I did it was so that I could go and see my now wife. I used to drive 90 miles to go see her in my piece of shit old truck that had no air conditioning in the summer in Texas. And that was okay because it got me there. There's all kinds of things you can do to make better choices than all the choices she's doing. And you know what her solution to that was, by the way, folks? If you're listening, I want you to hone in on this. She said, I can't afford my bills, so I signed up to sell my children. Do you know what kind of demonic insanity our society has reached where that's the choice? We talked about it yesterday. Here's a picture of Leslie Stahl, or whatever her name is, from 60 Minutes, talking about fertilized eggs and freezings and making people hold on to their fertility for many years. This girl said, I'm not going to be able to afford children, so I'm going to sell my babies. And she actually said it that way. That is a demonic society that pushes you into a place where you're in debt and your desperation leads you to one thing. You're going to sell off your future. Insane. Absolutely insane and disgusting. And all of it because of bad choices. She's claiming, oh, I was 17. Well, did you vote? Were you allowed to vote then? Should you not be allowed to vote? I sparked all this wild debate because I shared this online and I said, I have no sympathy for this person. She's made bad choices. Tattoos cost money. Apple Watches cost money. New car costs money. Does she have a car payment? Does she think she needs that? I haven't had a car payment since I owed my dad for a $2,000 car that I bought when I was 17 years old. That's the last time I had a real car payment. You know? This girl's going to sell her eggs before she sells her car. What, do you want her to ride a bicycle? Yeah, ride a freaking bicycle. Get a cheap motorcycle. Get a scooter. Find the bus. Live on the bus route. Make better choices. Have roommates. You have debt. You signed up for it. And here's the wild thing. Don't you have a rich relative? That was the other thing that blew my mind. She has a 17% interest rate, okay? Oh, that's not the slide I want. 17% interest rate means that she has private loans. That means that her family makes above the income level, which my family did too, that she could take out federal loans because the federal loans cap out under 9% for this current school year. It's like 8.94% is the highest federally subsidized loan rate. 17% is just below the highest interest rate that you can pay on student loans right now, which is capped at 17.99%. So she has the highest interest rate because she probably has shitty credit. Probably because she likes to shop at TJ Maxx for her safe space and have a new car, even though she has no money and owns $90,000 on a God knows what degree. If she was an engineer, would she have a problem? Probably not. If she was working in a job that paid something, would it make sense? For sure. There's ways that you can invest. She got a private loan for something that doesn't pay her enough, and now she's crying about it and thinks that the solution is Jeff Bezos should Venmo me, bro. I guess she didn't study communications, right? She obviously didn't study math. She didn't study finance or economics or business. So what the hell did she study? She didn't study video presentation or communications. So all these things, she didn't study any of that stuff based on what I can see just in that video. But the Office of Federal Student Loan is under attack. What do we say here often? The federal government is the worst solution to any problem, including when it's the only solution. It is certainly not the only solution when it comes to federal student loan, because we shouldn't have federally subsidized student loan. What the hell business does the government have in making sure that you are involved in higher education other than it puts you into debt slavery? That girl will be working for that for a long time because she doesn't know how to manage money. I got another video of this guy. He's crying about the things aren't fair. Welcome to the world, my friend. Life's not fair. I had a discussion back and forth with Aaron Stevenson, who I love. Aaron is a wonderful person. He's very focused on trying to eliminate child sex trafficking. He's principled. He's an Orthodox Christian. Okay. Aaron is a good person and he doesn't suffer from these problems, but he's compassionate. He has significant more compassion than I do, even though he sort of has like this like semi-autistic focus on numbers and trying to get policy. Like he calls it Spurgy. In our chat, he'll always send these like Spurgy ideas, but he's very moved by that young woman. And I can understand why. My reminder to you, if you are a Christian, is that life is not fair. And the reason that you know that, and there's no argument against this, is that the most perfect human being to ever walk the earth was murdered by his government and killed like a criminal in a most violent way possible after not having committed any crime. That's how you know. It's not fair. So that's the entry level. If you teach your children to be Christians, if you raise them in a Christian household, the first thing they know is life's not fair. Jesus was killed and he didn't do anything wrong. And then from there, you just go, okay, fine. Well, life's not fair. What do we do to stack the deck in our favor? We start making difficult choices. I went 14 months without a paycheck, and my children never went without a meal. Did I lean on some family members? Absolutely. Is my father and my mother to be thanked for housing us? Absolutely, for sure. They are. We looked around and said that we're not going to have a $2,000 hole in the bucket. We're going to liquidate our property that's going to give us money that we can invest and hold on to that residual so that we can preserve our net wealth. I don't think I even lost any from my net worth in 14 months with no paycheck. Part of that is because I leaned on the charity of friends and family. And so that's helpful. And that young woman, I hope she has that ability around her. But the other piece of it is, I made really hard decisions, like taking my kids away from something that would have been much more comfortable. I would have much rather lived in my house on multiple acres and paid bills and had fun, and then I would have been destitute. And so I didn't do that. And the difference becomes this understanding about value and utility. And I don't think people have it. To play this quick video of this guy claiming that things aren't fair. He's also sitting in a newer car than I had when I was making a six-figure salary and was putting money away every single month. He's wearing new clothes. He's wearing an Under Armour headband. He looks like a complete doofus with that. But he's crying that the deck is not fair. Agreed, it's not. Now what? Make good decisions. Tighten your belt. Figure out that finances are set up to either help you or hurt you. You have to know what money is. You have to know about value. You have to know about utility. We're going to talk about that in 1 second.
They tell us to stop eating out and rent's $2,000 a month. Oh, save for retirement, and yet you can barely save for next week. Go buy a house. Yep, every house is $500,000, brother. I'm not asking for a handout, man. We're asking for a freaking fair shot at life. Our parents did not work harder than we work right now. They were simply just given a better chance. Their wages covered their lives, their bills, their hobbies, their passions. Our wages barely cover our freaking bills for the month, dude.
How much do you pay for Netflix? How much do you pay for Amazon Prime? Are those requirements? How much do you pay for almost all the things that you have in front of you? Do you have a newish car? Do you have a car payment? Could you afford to buy it in cash? How much did you pay for that stupid Under Armour headband you have on your head? Value and utility, very simple. I explained it to my 6-year-old yesterday, and she pretty much understood it. Value is the monetary worth of a product. Utility is what you can do with that product. You can spend $20,000 on a Rolex watch, or you can spend $25 on a Timex watch. They have the same utility. They tell time. One of them is going to hold value. The Timex watch is probably worth nothing. You can sell it for nothing if you turned around and sell it. The Rolex might actually appreciate in value. There may be a value proposition in buying Swiss timepieces of a limited run. Cars are not that thing usually. Most people don't buy the car at a lower value and then see it appreciate. In my case, my truck is actually probably worth more than I paid for it because I came through in a good way. I bought it and I told my kids, most cars, you buy it and they slowly have less value. But as long as you get the same utility out of it, you're fine. I paid $400 for a chair that is sitting downstairs in my living room. I've sat on that chair for 8 years and I sit on it almost every single day. I could probably turn around and sell that chair today on a Facebook marketplace for $200. So I've lost 50% of the value, but I have 100% of the utility and I'm not looking to sell it. These are simple things. I was explaining it to my 6-year-old because she bought a stuffed animal. And I asked her, what could you sell that stuffed animal that you paid $5.38 for? What could you sell it to somebody else? Would anyone buy it for $5.38? She thought about it and she said, maybe. And my 8-year-old said, I think so. And I said, who would you sell it to and where would you do it? And they didn't have an answer. I said, the problem is because what you would do is if you wanted one of those things, you would go to the store and buy it for $5.38. You wouldn't buy someone else's stuffed animal, would you? No, I wouldn't. So that you probably have zero value, but it has the utility of you being able to hug it. Now we talk about needs versus wants, and we get into a discussion about what you really need. You've got 20 other stuffed animals. You just wanted that one, and I'm fine with that. And you spent your money on it. So be it. As you get older, you have to make more difficult decisions because your needs, which are not being met by your parents, suddenly are a lot more important than your wants, which is stuff that you just prefer. You might need a car, but you don't need a Tesla. You might need something that can get you to work back and forth. And there may not be a bus route or an opportunity for you to take a bicycle. Okay, I understand that. I've bought the cheapest and crappiest cars, things that I hoped would run when I went out to them, and that I spent constant time tinkering with trying to get them to go. So be it. It had the same utility as things with much higher value. And the fact of the matter is a lot of people don't understand this very basic thing. This video will prove it to you, I think. These are people who have enough money to spend a shitload of money on a vehicle, and they don't even know what their vehicle is worth because they don't understand how value works, how money works, how depreciation happens. And you can find these people everywhere. And some of them have more money than you. They're just earning at a rate that they're burning through, and they're not building wealth. These people are almost all up to their eyeballs in debt, and they have no idea if they had to liquidate it, what would happen next, because they're not preparing. And I think college is not helping them. In fact, all it's doing is setting them up to be debt slaves for something. It's either going to be, you're going to be a slave to your student loans. You're going to be a slave to car payments. God forbid you do something like that. All you who listen to Dave Ramsey are just going like, yeah, obviously we already know this, right? You put yourself into debt for something that is a depreciating asset. You now have to work for somebody else. And you should find out what percentage of your day is doing that. And then you should try to make that smaller so you can start working for yourself. The sooner you do that, the happier you are. And as I said, that's never been a problem in our marriage. I've been married for 12 years now, which is not a ton of time. But every one of those days during those 12 years, we didn't worry every single moment of whether or not we were going to be able to pay our bills. There was never a moment when we were like, I don't know if we're going to get through, because we just adjusted our life to know that our bills came first. We got all this stuff handled. If you set yourself up otherwise, then you end up selling your freaking eggs and sitting in a car crying outside of a TJ Maxx. Listen to these people not know. I'm going to put it on the screen so we can actually read it, because they cut away and they show the Craigslist, the Kelley Blue Book value of these cars. So here we go.
What kind of car do you drive?
A Range Rover Sport.
And how much do you think it's worth?
130.
It's worth $67,000
What kind of car do you drive?
to $73,000.
I drive a Tesla X Plaid.
And how much do you think it's worth?
I think it's worth how much I purchased it for, $160K.
$47,800.
What kind of car do you drive?
Tesla Model Y.
And how much do you think it's worth?
I hope $60K.
$31,157. Right?
What kind of car do you drive?
I hope it's worth something that I paid for it, because I don't know how money works. I don't understand appreciation. I don't understand value, which is the retained monetization of the asset, versus the utility, which is that it gets me around. Now, maybe they can realize how that works. Maybe they can understand that they can eat that cost and it doesn't matter to them because they have such high incomes. They're obviously talking about people who had pretty expensive vehicles. Or maybe they just don't get it because these people graduated from college. Almost all of them, I would bet. If we had to guess about those people, I would say that the number of those people that graduated from college is all of them. And they couldn't understand a basic statistics class. I'm going to lead this to one more little thing here. I had a college class on genetics, of all things. And I think I've told this story on this podcast before, but it's worth remembering, and you should share it with your children and your grandchildren. At the beginning of the class, he said, the reason that so many Americans are unhappy with their financial status is because they do not understand basic statistics. Now, this is going back to 2011 or 12. 11 or 12 or 13. 2012, 2013. It's at Texas State University. Brilliant guy. He was the endowed chair of a genetics professorship, so he ran the genetics department that he was in. And the question was, what percentage? It was maybe 300 students in the class. How many of you think that you are going to make more than $60,000 when you graduate from school with a bachelor's degree? And the hands went up, and it was like 85 to 90%. There were some military veterans in there that knew better, and there were some grown-ups like me sitting in there. I was like 31, 32 years old. All the hands go up. All the kids, 18 to 22. They all say, yeah, I'm going to make more than $60,000. How many of you think you're going to make more than $100,000 when you graduate with your bachelor's degree? Probably about 50% of the hands went up. And he said that right there is a demonstration of a lack of understanding of statistics. Because statistically, most of you are going to earn between $30,000 and $40,000 a year if you're employed at all when you come out of college with your undergraduate degree. You're not going to go out and make $60,000, and you're sure as shit not going to go out and make $100,000. The number of you that's going to make $100,000 a year out of college on a bachelor's degree is almost none. And he said that once you understand that is why we have so much unhappiness, is a basic misunderstanding of statistics. And once you understand that, then you can go and evaluate your life. Now, statistics is like a high school level course. It could be, and it should be. What you've sold is this dream that doesn't exist, that you're going to be profitable and wealthy and that you need to have college. And then you turn around and you realize that you can make $80,000 to $120,000 a year with like 3 years worth of work experience in a trade. And you can get it for free. You can get the trade training for free on the job as an apprentice in a lot of major trades. I just had a guy who's an attorney, works in Washington, D.C. this morning because I made a joke about, hey, write me a haiku about the student loan debt and the crisis. And he said, I watched guys fixing my pool, doing masonry work. And I realized that I wish I had done that, not gone to college, not become a lawyer, but had simply gone out into a trade. It looked like a lot more fun, and they make a ton of money. And that's factually true. But in the meantime, we have this real serious problem with the Office of Federal Student Aid being under attack. This is coming from the American Prospect. I just read it today. It is literally dated today. I thought about writing this or doing the show simply because of that video of that girl crying. And I immediately found that there's all kinds of people crying at every level, including in like quote unquote professional journalism. Student loan debt is approaching $1.8 trillion, preventing borrowers of all ages from buying homes and starting businesses. And yet, instead of helping the country's current and former students, the Trump administration has taken steps to exacerbate this crisis. That makes it sound like their problem is my problem. I had private student loans. I paid mine. I understood what the cost was. It was like 7% interest instead of being 2.2% interest like a lot of my classmates were. I paid for it. At the end of the day, I probably wouldn't do it again, but it wasn't a debilitating. A 17% interest rate, you might as well be buying a freaking Ford Mustang and being an enlisted guy on every military base in the country. A used Ford Mustang at that. Each year, the Federal Student Aid Office disperses billions of dollars in grants and loans and work-study funds to limit hardship on students attending college, graduate school, law school, medical school, or trade schools. FSA also ensures that private lenders manage day-to-day operations on student loans that are not scamming the students. But that's no small task because a majority of students across the country carry some federal aid, and about 42.7 million people carry a student loan debt, translating to 1 in 6 Americans. All right. If 1 in 6 Americans are suffering under crippling financial debt because of a bad decision, the answer is don't be one of those people. They're not the majority. They are obviously living and suffering. We don't have to celebrate that they're living like that. But you can just tell them, you can see the outcomes are not good. Most people are not going to benefit. In fact, what you're doing is you're buying into something that's based on emotion. It's based on camaraderie. It's based on some information that's not good, even though you probably know the real answer. Present them with hard statistic. Your kids, your grandkids, they need to understand this. I found a video accidentally that actually explains this very perfectly. Do not do things that are insane. Do not make choices that are most likely going to give you a negative outcome. And here it is talking about sports.
Another question. If it has snowed every year for the past 30 years in Alaska, how much would you bet on it to snow this year?
It snowed every year for the last 30 years in Alaska. How much would I bet that it would snow this year?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of questions are these? I would literally bet everything because I have 30 years of data to back up my bet. So yeah, I bet literally everything in the bank account that it would snow.
I have 30 years of data on the Cowboys not making the Super Bowl. So why do you keep saying every year it's your year?
I hit my wife one time in my life. I swear to God. I'm only human. I ain't ashamed to tell you I knocked the fuck out of her.
It's a setup for a joke, right? Only hit the wife. Why? Because he's a Cowboys fan. Why? Because that's my team. Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't mean they're going to get there. You got a lot of data saying otherwise. This is the same sort of logic. This is exactly what's going on. You're like, why do you go to college? Well, because everyone says you should. It's like, well, who are these people? And do they have any evidence? No, actually, all the evidence says otherwise. You want to be an engineer? Yeah, you got to go to engineering school. You want to be a lawyer? You got to go through some sort of law program. So yeah, knock yourself out. But we've basically turned universities into glorified trade schools, except there's just a shitload more debt involved. Why do we not demand that you should become an accountant in 2 years by being an accountant apprentice? We've set up this fake thing where we've basically taken something that was really scarce, and that's why it had value. We've made it available to everyone, and suddenly we realize that it has no value. You're there right now. Every time you take something that was unique and special and small, if you made Rolexes so that you could make 1 million of them and you could sell them, like they would immediately like decrease in value because there would be too many of them. The scarcity is what makes it valuable. The quality would go down if you created that many. You couldn't maintain the QA. And they haven't, which is why when you go read college level writing, it's awful. It is atrocious. It's not even high school level writing from the 1970s. It's unbelievable. People graduate and they're functionally illiterate. I used to see it all the time as a TA. And this was going back to like 2005. 20 years on that. Every person you talk to that's taught at a university level, that is a regular person that came in and brought like, I don't know, real skills to the world. And they were like, oh, look, I have a, 40 years of business experience. I'm going to come and teach business. And then you realize that these kids are not there to learn. They've just there to be coddled and to have their money taken. And if you want to be part of the scam, you are. All right. Last little version of this, which we're going to end with, because this is the kind of thing, this is a way to have real strife in your marriage, I think. And this is it's probably a setup, to be fair. But there are real people like this because I've met them. I've seen these conversations. I've seen people talk about these conversations. And you go like, holy crap. What did they spend? They say the most important thing you can do is choose your spouse if you want to have both a happy life and a wealthy life. And so choosing the other person that has access to either your credit cards or your bank accounts, critical decision in your life. Here's somebody that chose, interestingly, I hope he chose for looks or something and thinks that was a good idea.
Can you come here, please?
Yeah, what's up?
What is this $15,000 charge in our bank statement right now? Because I'm very confused. Because I see the name on it and it says Disney, but we talked about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, what?
We talked.
We talked. We didn't make a decision. There's a $15,000 charge for Disney. What is this for?
That's for the Disney cruise. That's for the cruise.
The what?
Ship. The cruise that we're going on.
$15,000 for Disney cruise?
Yeah, everything's included. Once you get, I know.
That's every cruise ship. What do you mean? So it's $15,000 for us to go on the cruise?
Yeah.
Me, you, and the kids? All four of them?
Yes, honey. Yeah, see? See,
No,
all
not
of
see.
us.
What do you mean, all of us? That's 15,000.
You're not thinking about the memories. You're not thinking about all the fun they're gonna have. They're gonna remember this forever. You're just thinking about the number, but think about the experience.
Yes, the number itself is very important.
And that's a good price because the flights were. You don't even want to know how much the flights were.
Wait, this is just for the cruise. This has nothing to do. What about the flights and the hotel before we go there?
Yeah, that's just the cruise. So don't even be worried about that because that's not the total.
Jane.
Yeah.
How much is the total, honey?
Don't worry.
I have to worry.
You can't take it with you.
But apparently I can't have it here either. What do you mean?
I think that's probably staged, but you know that there's a real person out there that does stuff like that. Yikes. In any case, you know what? If you don't go on a vacation, you don't go on a vacation. You don't get to keep those memories, but your kids don't have to worry about like mom and dad fighting over the debt that they can't pay anymore. So that's a real thing. I would much rather have like a play set in my backyard that I got for free and I spent a bunch of sweat equity on than have my kids go on a Disney cruise and be around a bunch of weirdos on a boat for a long period of time. And I'll take that $15,000 and invest it so they never have to worry about whether or not they're going to eat when things go wrong. And we don't have to sell their car. Just saying. There's some choices that people make and nobody wants to take responsibility after those choices. That's it. We're in a bad spot when people like the former first son and first crackhead first son are making more sense than other people. We're going to end with that. Before we do, let me just say, folks, you can support us in multiple ways. The easiest way to do it is just watch and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a 5-star review. Do so over on X. You can do so on Rumble. It's rumble.com/@KyleSeraphin, which has really been pissing me off. They have like just a mediocre back end. Folks over at YouTube doing a great job as well. It's youtube.com/@KyleSeraphin. Who knew that I'd be praising YouTube and disparaging Rumble of late? And then you can support us directly if you want to go to KyleSeraphin.com. That's where you're going to get the articles of the stuff that we referenced today. So you guys can do that if you want to see some of those things. And I will also say that for those of you that are enduring ads on Apple and on Spotify and iHeartRadio and otherwise, it does actually pay us out. We really appreciate you guys listening to those. You can get rid of all of those by going to KyleSeraphinShow.com. That'll take you to Spotify. If you're a Spotify premium, you don't hear any ads. So you just hear the ones I read, which is like 2 most days. Here's what how I know we're in bad space. The crackhead first son, that's Hunter Biden, makes more sense than that lady who lives in a nice house spending $15,000 on a Disney cruise. We're in the upside down right now, folks.
Do you think it was like a suicide? Epstein?
No. Nobody does. I mean, really, except for all of a sudden, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. Nobody thinks it was. Yeah. Is that you have that renowned doctor, a coroner, that did the, what's it called?
Postmortem autopsy.
Yeah, the postmortem autopsy.
I don't know if that's what it's called.
He talks about all the different, the different fractures in his neck and how it was impossible that he could have done that.
You can't
by simply
leaning by strangling yourself.
What?
You can't commit suicide.
Exactly.
And you can't strangle yourself to death, even if you hate life.
Yes, exactly. That literally is an impossibility and a fiction. And there's this idea that what he did is like he leaned forward. Well, none of it matches up. There's that guy that just testified he was interviewed that was in the cell next to Jeffrey Epstein's. And he said it's just absolutely impossible that he would have been able to do that. Now you have the tape that comes out, and it's not just 1 minute missing from the tape. Yeah. It's actually 3 minutes from the tape has been overwritten.
Well, you know that's standard protocol at the most secure facility in the country.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's and just that alone, you have someone that everyone absolutely knows that if anything happens to him you're going to be accused of a gigantic cover-up, and he dies, and the guy that is his co-conspirator in France, what's his name? He just happens to commit or died in mysterious ways in prison, and the woman who's living in Australia, she commits suicide just before that. I mean, look again. I'm feeding into the conspiracy.
Pinpoint pupils, stumbling over his words, dunking on Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. Crackhead Hunter Biden still doing better, making more sense than the people who run some parts of our federal government. We're upside down right now. That's pretty scary stuff. But that's where we're at. Hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day here on this Thursday. I'm going to feed you into the American Radical podcast. For those of you who are listening over on Rumble, you guys be able to find that. Otherwise, you can look for them on X. It's @AmRadPod. And I look forward to doing a Friendly Friday with Steve. We might even talk more about this debt situation. Steve is another guy who's been able to go the same way I did. Put your money where your mouth is, and you live very, very frugally simply because you don't want to be a debt slave. These good decisions lead to good outcomes, even in bad situations where you don't have any choice. All right. God bless you. Look forward to talking to you again tomorrow. Have a good one.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram @Kyle Seraphin.